All right, everyone, get ready, because today we're taking a deep dive into how small businesses are managing their IT,
Yeah.
and specifically the growing role of those managed service providers.
Oh, yeah, the MSPs.
Yeah, the MSPs.
It's pretty amazing how things are changing, right? I mean, smaller companies, they want that same level of, IT sophistication as like the big guys, but they don't always have the giant budgets.
Yeah, they don't have those big IT departments.
Exactly. And so that's where these MSPs are stepping in, and they basically become their outsourced IT departments.
Yeah, they're like those superheroes of the small business world.
That's a good way to put it.
So for this deep dive, we're focusing on this case study
Oh, cool.
that I think really illustrates how this is all playing out.
Okay, yeah.
We're going to look at how these two companies, Uplevel Systems and TeamLogic IT, they joined forces to totally revamp the IT setup for this local brewery that was expanding.
Wow, I love a good brewery story.
Oh, you and me both. And the results are pretty remarkable. I mean, we're talking streamlined IT, big cost savings, how fast everything happened.
Not bad.
It's a really cool success story. I think you'll find it fascinating.
Yeah, I'm definitely intrigued. I think it's a great example of how,
Yeah.
people are coming up with creative solutions to solve those IT problems that small businesses always used to face.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so before we get into all the details, we need to set the stage, right?
Okay.
So let's start with infrastructure as a service, or IaaS.
Yes, okay.
And in our case study, that's where Uplevel Systems comes in.
Right, got it.
So you want to explain IaaS a little bit?
Yeah, so basically IaaS is like outsourcing your entire IT infrastructure.
The whole thing.
The whole kit and caboodle.
Yeah.
Your servers, storage, networking, everything you need
Yeah.
to a third-party provider. And in this case, that's Uplevel Systems. And they've really made a name for themselves, founded in 2017.
Pretty recent.
Yeah, but they already have over 500 partners and manage something like 150,000 devices across the country.
That is a lot of devices.
Oh, yeah, they're growing fast.
That's impressive.
It is. And you know what else is interesting?
What's that?
They have this partner program where for every new client a partner brings in, they get a free month of service.
Really?
Yeah, it's like a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, that's really cool.
It shows that they're not just about making a quick buck, They're invested in building those long-term relationships.
And helping everyone grow.
Exactly. And I think that's something we're seeing more and more these days,
For sure.
It's not just about selling a product anymore. It's about building partnerships that benefit everyone involved.
Totally agree. Partnerships are everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so we've got Uplevel Systems. They're the IaaS experts in this story.
Right.
Now let's bring in TeamLogic IT.
Okay.
They're the MSP. And they were brought in to help this local brewery that was opening a second location.
Nice. Must be doing well.
Yeah, business is booming. But think about the challenges they were facing, right?
Yeah.
Setting up this whole new IT infrastructure.
From scratch.
Yeah, from scratch. For a small team, less than 10 users.
Oh, wow. That's a pretty small team.
Yeah, but they wanted to keep costs down up front.
Makes sense.
And they also knew they'd need the system to be able to handle growth in the future.
So scalability was key.
Exactly.
That's a lot to juggle all at once.
It really is.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine trying to do all that with a traditional IT setup?
Oh, it would have been a nightmare. I'm talking $5,000-$6,000.
Just to start?
Yeah, just for the basic hardware and software.
Oof.
And then you've got to factor in installation time. That could easily take 12 hours or more.
I bet.
You're talking a major investment of time and money.
Yeah, and for a business that's still in that growth phase,
Right.
that can be a real roadblock.
It's no wonder some businesses just put their expansion plans on hold,
Yeah, it's just too much to take on.
Right, but that's where Uplevel Systems and their IaaS platform really shine.
Okay, so tell me how they saved the day.
So TeamLogic IT, they were able to use this platform to put together this whole package for the brewery.
Like a one-stop shop.
Yeah, pretty much. It included everything they needed, from Wi-Fi and network storage to, all the security stuff.
And I hear they got everything up and running super fast.
Oh, yeah. The speed is incredible.
Like how fast are we talking?
They deployed everything in just 4 hours.
Wow.
A third of the time it would have taken the traditional way.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's really impressive.
So wait, they didn't have to shell out thousands of dollars up front either?
Nope, no massive upfront costs for the brewery.
How does that work?
Because it's all based on a subscription model.
Oh, interesting. So instead of buying everything outright,
Right.
they're just paying a monthly fee.
Exactly. And that's a game changer for a lot of businesses.
Yeah, it makes so much more sense.
Especially those with, tighter budgets.
Totally. Okay, so they've got this subscription-based model. They've got everything up and running super fast.
Yeah.
What else did they do?
Well, they installed this thing called the Uplevel Gateway at the brewery.
The Uplevel Gateway. Okay. What is that?
Think of it as like the brain of the whole operation.
Got it.
So it lets TeamLogic IT manage everything remotely.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, no more running back and forth every time there's a little issue.
So it's kind of like a smart home hub?
Yeah, exactly. But for the entire business.
That's awesome. So they've got this remote management, no huge upfront costs.
Yeah.
What other benefits did the brewery see?
Well, let's talk about that after a quick break. Well, besides, dodging that big upfront payment, the brewery's productivity actually got a boost.
Oh, really? How so?
Yeah, because now TeamLogic IT can manage everything remotely.
Right.
And as the brewery grows, adding more users or features, it's a piece of cake.
So it's like built for the future.
Yes, scalability is built right in.
That's got to be a huge relief for them.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially in the craft brewing world. Things are always changing. New beers, new locations.
Yeah, it's a fast-paced industry.
Their IT needs to keep up.
For sure. And they don't have to deal with the headache of managing it all themselves either.
That's true.
It's like having an entire IT department on call.
Without the added salaries.
Yeah. And that brings us to another big plus. Cost savings.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about that.
So because of this setup, they don't need to hire a dedicated IT manager.
Makes sense.
A network administrator, or even a logistics coordinator.
I mean, how much money are we talking about here?
Oh, it's significant. Potentially over $200,000 a year just in salaries.
Wow. That's a game changer.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, for anyone listening,
yeah,
this really shows how this model can make a huge difference.
Absolutely.
It's not just tech. It's about being smart with your resources.
Right, exactly.
So they can focus on what really matters, brewing that delicious beer.
It's a perfect example of how the right tech can actually free you up.
Yeah.
To focus on your passions and what your business does best.
Absolutely. It's a win-win for everyone involved.
Totally. TeamLogic IT has a happy client.
Right.
The brewery gets amazing IT support without breaking the bank.
Okay.
And Uplevel Systems gets another success story for their platform.
It's like the perfect partnership.
It really is.
So we've talked about how great it is, but I'm curious, how does this actually work in practice? Like, what are the nuts and bolts of this IaaS thing?
Okay, so picture this, all right?
Okay.
Uplevel Systems, they provide the foundation, the infrastructure. So that's your servers, your storage, networking equipment, all that stuff.
Oh, wow.
All housed in these secure data centers.
Got it. So instead of the brewery having to buy and manage all that themselves, they're basically subscribing to a service.
That's a great way to put it.
It's like Netflix, but for IT.
Yeah, exactly. And Uplevel Systems, they handle all the maintenance, updates, security.
All the stuff you don't want to think about.
Exactly. So TeamLogic IT and the brewery, they don't have to worry about any of that.
That's got to be so freeing.
Oh, it is. And then TeamLogic IT as the MSP,
right?
They act as the middleman, right? They tailor that up-level platform to the brewery's specific needs.
Makes sense.
And handle their day-to-day IT stuff.
So they're like the hands-on team.
Yeah, they're the ones monitoring the network, fixing problems, making sure everything runs smoothly.
It really is a true partnership, then.
Oh, it is. Each party brings their own expertise to the table.
Right.
And together they create something better than they could on their own.
That's really cool.
It is. And you know what? This whole collaborative approach, it's not just limited to brewing. No, we're seeing it everywhere. Lots of businesses, especially the small to medium-sized ones, they're ditching those old-school IT setups in favor of IaaS and MSPs.
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
It's efficient, it saves money, and lets businesses focus on what they're good at.
Absolutely. So what do you think is driving this whole trend?
Well, for one, I think the cloud has become a lot more reliable.
It has.
It's more affordable, too, right?
Oh, yeah, much more. Businesses don't have to spend a fortune up front for all that hardware and software.
Right, they just pay for what they use.
It's like a utility.
Yeah, like electricity or something.
Exactly. And I bet that's really appealing to startups and smaller businesses.
Oh, yeah, they need to watch their budget.
Right, it removes a huge obstacle for them.
Totally. And you know what else?
What?
Managing IT has gotten so much more complicated these days.
Oh, tell me about it.
You've got cybersecurity, constant software updates, data backups.
Ugh, it's a lot to keep up with.
I mean, I can barely handle updating my phone without something going wrong.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine trying to manage an entire company's IT.
Well, that's where MSPs like TeamLogic IT come in.
Right. They take care of all that.
Exactly. They have the expertise.
And then businesses don't have to worry about it.
Right. They can focus on what they're good at.
It's brilliant, really.
It is. And I think there's also this growing realization that IT isn't just some back office thing anymore.
Right.
It can actually drive business growth.
Yeah, it's a key part of everything.
Exactly. From marketing and sales to customer service and even product development.
It's the backbone of modern business.
It is. And by using IaaS and MSPs, businesses can access the latest tech and get that expertise, which can help them be more innovative, streamline their operations,
and ultimately be more competitive.
That's the goal.
It's incredible how this case study shows how a small business can level up their IT and compete with those big companies.
Yeah, and they get peace of mind, too.
Knowing that everything is taken care of.
Yeah, that's huge. For business owners, they've got enough on their plate already.
Absolutely. They can focus on growing their business.
Right, which leads to happier customers and more profits.
It's a win-win all around.
It really is. So we talked about scalability before, how businesses can easily adjust their IT resources as they grow.
Right.
What does that actually look like in the real world, though?
Good question.
Like, let's say our brewery decides to open that third location, or hire more people, or maybe get a new point of sale system.
Yeah.
With a traditional setup, that would mean buying more hardware, installing new software.
Oh, gosh.
Reconfiguring the network. It'd be a nightmare.
I'm getting stressed just thinking about it.
Right. But with IaaS, it's a whole different story.
Okay, how so?
They just call up TeamLogic IT.
Right.
And they can get those extra resources from the Uplevel cloud platform.
Just like that.
Pretty much, on demand.
So it's like turning on a faucet. They need more, they get more.
Exactly. And because it's all in the cloud, no on-site installations or crazy configurations.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's quick, efficient, and doesn't cost a fortune.
That kind of flexibility is so important these days.
Oh, absolutely. Things change so fast.
Businesses need to be able to adapt.
For sure, their IT can't hold them back.
It's got to be an asset, not a burden.
Exactly. IaaS and MSPs are giving them that flexibility.
It sounds almost too good to be true.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Are there any limitations to this scalability, though?
Well, that's a great question. And like with anything, there are some practical limitations.
Okay.
For example, even with cloud resources, you might run into issues with data transfer speeds, or maybe the availability of specific hardware.
So it's not magic?
Yeah, unfortunately not. There are still real-world limits.
Makes sense.
But even with those limitations, this model is so much more flexible and scalable than anything we had before.
Absolutely. So I think we've covered a lot of the benefits of this model.
We have.
We've talked about how it works and even some of the limitations.
Yeah.
It seems like a great solution for businesses that want to, modernize their IT.
I think so, but are there any downsides or challenges that we haven't talked about yet?
Ooh, good point.
Like things people should be aware of before jumping in?
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, one thing to think about is that you're relying on a third party.
Oh, right. You're putting a lot of trust in that provider.
Exactly. You're trusting them with a critical part of your business.
So it's super important to do your homework.
Oh, absolutely.
You've got to make sure they're reputable, reliable, and have a good track record.
Yeah, you want someone who's going to take security seriously.
Right, and make sure they can actually deliver on their promises.
You're basically giving them the keys to your digital castle.
That's a good analogy. And that brings up another point.
What's that?
Data security. I mean, that's a big concern for every business these days.
Oh, yeah, for sure. With all the data breaches we hear about.
It's scary.
It is, but the good news is that the good IaaS providers...
Like Uplevel systems?
Yeah, they invest a ton in security measures.
To keep their clients' data safe.
Yeah, they've got strong firewalls, intrusion detection systems. They encrypt everything.
So it's possible the data is actually safer in the cloud.
Than it would be on a company's own servers.
Interesting. Especially for smaller companies that might not have the resources to do all that themselves.
Exactly. IaaS providers have the expertise and the scale to really prioritize security.
That's good to know. It sounds like the benefits outweigh the risks in a lot of cases.
I think so.
But what about the internet connection itself?
Oh, that's a good point.
Because everything's relying on the cloud, right?
Yeah, you need a solid connection.
Stable and fast.
Absolutely. Businesses need enough bandwidth to handle those cloud applications.
So they might need a dedicated internet connection.
Possibly.
Or at least upgrade their existing one.
It's definitely something to consider.
It's an added cost.
It is, but often those savings from going to the cloud,
right,
they more than make up for it.
Plus, they're getting increased productivity and efficiency.
Right. It's about the bigger picture.
Okay, so we've talked about the good stuff, the how-to stuff, even some potential downsides. It seems like a pretty solid option for businesses.
I think so.
But there's one more thing I wanted to ask about.
Okay, sure.
What about vendor lock-in?
Oh, yeah.
Some businesses might be hesitant to commit fully.
Right.
Because they're worried about getting stuck with a specific provider.
Yeah, that's understandable.
Like, what if they want to switch later on?
Well, the good providers are aware of that concern.
They are.
Yeah, and they usually offer pretty flexible contracts.
So you can switch if you need to.
Exactly. It's not a prison sentence.
That's good to know. So it's all about doing your research.
Yeah, ask the right questions up front. Make sure you have options.
Transparency and flexibility are key.
Couldn't agree more. It's a partnership.
Right.
And it needs to be built on trust.
Like any good relationship.
Exactly.
Well, it definitely seems like this whole IaaS and MSP model, it's shaking things up in the IT world.
It really is.
Streamlining everything, cutting costs, giving businesses a real advantage.
And it's making those sophisticated IT solutions accessible to everyone.
Not just the big corporations.
Okay. Exactly. It's leveling the playing field.
And this story, with Uplevel Systems and TeamLogic IT, it shows how it can actually work in the real world.
Delivering real results.
But let's zoom out a little.
Okay.
What does this trend mean for the future of IT as a whole?
Well, I think we're seeing a fundamental shift.
Yeah.
Businesses aren't managing their own IT in-house as much anymore.
Things are changing.
Yeah, it's becoming more specialized, more collaborative.
More about partnerships.
Right. Businesses are seeing the value of working with experts.
And leveraging the power of the cloud.
Yeah, focusing on what they do best.
So IT is becoming less about the hardware and software itself and more about strategy.
Yeah.
Innovation, finding the right partners.
Exactly. It's not just a cost center anymore.
It's a strategic asset.
That can actually drive growth.
And this shift is only going to accelerate, right?
Oh, I think so.
Cloud computing is evolving.
Yeah.
MSPs are expanding their offerings.
For sure. I think we'll see even more innovative solutions popping up.
It's an exciting time to be in IT.
It really is.
But with all this change happening, what should our listeners be paying attention to?
That's a good question. I think the most important thing to remember is that IT doesn't have to be a headache.
Right.
You don't have to be constantly chasing the latest tech.
Or feeling overwhelmed by all the complexity.
Exactly. There are solutions out there.
Like IaaS and MSPs.
Yeah, that can help businesses simplify their IT.
And get back to doing what they love.
Right, focusing on their goals.
It's about seeing IT as a tool to help you succeed.
Not something holding you back.
Absolutely. And by partnering with the right people, businesses can really unlock the potential of their IT.
Couldn't agree more.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today.
They have.
From this specific case study to the future of IT management.
A lot to think about.
It's been really insightful and hopefully a bit inspiring too.
I hope so. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thanks for joining us. And to everyone listening, we've reached the end of our deep dive. But the exploration doesn't stop here.
Keep learning.
Keep asking those tough questions.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to dive deep into the world of IT.
Because the possibilities are endless.
Absolutely.
Until next time, keep exploring.